tuning in to the online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing after shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
One is the loneliest number that you ever do.
It's just me. Welcome everyone to the League After Show here on AFTERBUZZ TV. Thank you so much for watching us live. If you are watching us live on YouTube or AFTERBUZZTV.com. If you're not watching us live on YouTube, thank you still for watching. If you're listening to us on iTunes, thank you so much for listening. Feel free to rate us 5 stars, SoundCloud, all the above, 5 stars. Either way, thank you so much. I know you guys that are watching are fans of the league, like myself. Unfortunately, myself is just me right now. Obviously some scheduling issues with my co-host Christina Kaplan, but she'll be back, I'm sure. But I'm here to recap the league season 7 episode 3 called The Blind Spot. Overall thoughts on the episode, I thought it was actually really funny. A lot so far out of the 3 episodes this season, the funniest so far. Nothing taken away from the first 2 episodes, but either way, they were all funny, but this one being the funniest now that the football season has actually started. Obviously, in real time, we're in week 2, but, you know, the league, they're on week 1. You know, they got some catching up to do, but again, it's all in the TV show aspect. So, obviously, show starts. Group begins at watching college football, making their week 1 plans. What are they going to do? Are they going to go to Pete's? Are they going to go to... Well, Pete's, you don't really watch football at Pete's. They usually go to the MacArthur's or Ruxin's. But Ruxin's happy because he's going to have the house all to himself, because going back to last week, Sophia and Baby Jeffrey, which I think it's kind of weird that they're still referring to him as Baby Jeffrey when I think he's around 6 or 7 or 8 now. But either way, Baby Jeffrey, just kind of keep going. They're in Puerto Rico because obviously Sophia's dad just had a stroke, so Ruxin is all alone. We've seen in previous episodes of the league in past seasons where Ruxin has a house to himself, or he thinks he's going to have the house to himself, and then maybe his dad comes in, obviously played by Jeff Goldblum, and then pretty much takes all the plans away from Ruxin. But in this case, I wouldn't say alone, because apparently at Casa de Ruxin, a bunch of security cameras are there, so even when he's alone, Sophie is there watching, you know, judging, making sure he's being healthy, making sure there's nobody inappropriate over. We'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, so Andre, you know, saying that, you know, he wants to host week 1, him and Megan, invites Pete over. Pete, it looks like he's being a little bit more receptive of it. Obviously, maybe thinking about it, well, it's a sloppy second, so maybe he's a little bit over it. So Pete agrees, you know, if you're going to have week 1 at, you know, gathering, I'll come over. Yeah, so it looks like maybe all is well in the Andre Pete land. You know, let me know what you guys think. If you guys are watching it on YouTube, feel free to comment below. But in the meantime, going back to the cameras, Ruxin, it's like he can't do anything right because he's, instead of eating chips, or he's eating chips, but he's telling Sophie over the phone maybe they're carrot sticks. I don't know. Same color, Doritos and carrot sticks. I think that depending on how they're cut, maybe they can look the same, but I don't think Sophia's buying it anyways. Of course, we see the whole dynamic, which I love. Whenever they're all together, especially them. I know at times you have Rafi or Russell come in, and not that it adds on to it or takes off from it, but this is the core group. The 6 of them. It was Pete, Jenny, Taco, Ruxin, Andre, Kevin. When it's all them together, that chemistry that they have with each other, it's just indescribable. Obviously, sometimes you have Rafi come in and just completely, and we talk about it all the time, where with Rafi, you can write anything for him and it'll make sense. And that's the great thing about Rafi, but at times I guess it does kind of throw up that core off. But again, going back, I do like it when that's that core together, because their chemistry is just, and a lot of it is just improvising. Yes, the storyline is written out, But a lot of these one-liners that they have, it's all improvised. So I love that aspect of the league. Obviously, you'll find out as the episodes go along that we see a lot of kind of throwbacks to previous episodes, especially because this is the last season, which I'm still a little upset about. I know. Let me know if you guys are upset as well. I don't think the show has ran its course as of yet. I think maybe 1 or 2 seasons more, especially since there's only like 11 or 12 episodes per season. But I don't know. Like I said, maybe throughout this season, you'll kind of see a lot of closure in terms of maybe some characters. I don't know. We're gonna find out. It's only episode 3. I'm sure it's like an 11 episode season. So next scene over, you have Kevin at his house at the MacArthur's, and he picks up a bra. And initially he's like, "Oh, Jenny, this bra is sexy. You should wear it, etc., etc." Little does he know that it's actually not her bra. It's his daughter Ellie's bra. Which, by the way, going back to season 1, she obviously grows, but she's grown. Like I remember season 1 when it was so cute the way she said computer. I think she was like, "Oh, blah blah blah, computer," or something to that extent, or even like being obsessed with the McGiblets character. Obviously, 6 seasons later, I don't know how old she is, maybe 13 or 14, but it's always kind of cool, kind of looking back to season 1, and now we're on season 7, and just like while everyone else has stayed the same looking, they all look the same. Obviously, they're all adults, but this little girl is now a grown up, or not grown up, but obviously she's grown 6 years later, and especially during there aren't that many shows out there that kind of use the same kid. I know Friends, it was 2 different Bens, and some other shows where it's when the show started, it's one kid, but then when he's older, it's like, oh well, what happened to that kid? I think Boy Meets World was another one where they had a youngin and then grows up and it's a completely different person. But no, it's still the same Ellie. First appearance of Ellie this season. She always makes a few appearances, so it's always fun to see her. So obviously, Kevin is a little disgusted, I guess you can say. I mean, I don't know how maybe some of you guys would react if you saw one of your kids, undergarments, especially thinking that it was your wife's. And it's not the first time that's happened. I think dating back to season 2, you had Kevin finding a Girl Scout uniform, thinking it was Jenny's Halloween costume, but it was obviously Ellie's, which was kind of a flashback to season 2. So that's kind of that. Taco comes in. Of course, the EBDB continues. I think it was either last season or the season, I think it was 2 seasons ago, where Mark Cuban bought it. Obviously, Taco had a lot of money because of the Mark Cuban purchase. But I guess he's still heavily involved. He didn't just give it all to Mark Cuban, or as he called it, Mark from Cuba. But he's still very much so involved, which kind of introduced the EBDB Prime, obviously going off on the Amazon Prime. So that kind of like was kind of, I thought it was kind of funny. He brings out the big board, talks about how, exclusive content, things that you don't really get with the normal EBDB membership, which, by the way, I have been trying to register for it, but I guess there's an issue with my email. I don't know. Taco, email me, please. I'm trying to get into the EBDB. It's not that much, to be honest with you. And then I thought the next scene, which I think they're at the bar again, kind of like a commercial within the show. So talking about DraftKings, which obviously has been, we've talked about before, pushing DraftKings, which I personally started using last week. And it really is fun. I know I'm not going to get into like a commercial for DraftKings, but if you watch the league, I don't need to, because literally the commercial was within the league episode, and you even had Pete kind of talking about it on the show. Like, okay, I guess we don't really need to go over DraftKings, but I do want to mention a new show on ABC. It's called Quantico, Sunday, September 27th. It's a series premiere of ABC's highly anticipated new drama, Quantico. Quantico is where the FBI trains their top recruits. Over 100,000 young people apply and only 1,200 get in. They are the smartest, strongest, and have the best skills. Now they must live and train together under one roof. But everything changes when a massive terrorist attack strikes in America, and the FBI discovers its greatest fear, that one of their top recruits from Quantico is a terrorist. Which one is behind it all and became a traitor? It really is an edge of your seat drama with twist after twist after twist. Priyanka Chopra stars in one of television's top new shows of the fall. Don't miss the series premiere of Quantico, Sunday, September 27th at 10 p.m., 9 Central, only on ABC. So going back to the episode of League, I like the fact that even though it seemed like a commercial for DraftKings, they did kind of tie it into the character in terms of if anybody knows DraftKings as opposed to regular season long fantasy football, which I'm in. And by the way, I won both my leagues this past week. Hip hip hooray. Celebration music, anyone? No? Okay. I'll just clap for myself then. Oh, there you go. Yeah, good enough. And obviously DraftKings being a week by week, they kind of referred to Pete as the DraftKings of relationships since he seems to have a different girl every single week. So they kind of started talking about Pete and Andre, see who's going to be happier by the end of the season, whether Pete's going to be happy with his DraftKings mentality or if Andre's still going to be happy with Megan. Obviously making comments so they're still together. So that kind of goes that. Back at Andre's, they're all kind of hanging out, and then it got a little uncomfortable. And Andre's, he is kind of known of making, I wouldn't say intentional inappropriate comments, more like accidental ones. And he's kind of making these funny hand movements, kind of describing Ellie, like which can be construed as, you know, as he would say, developing. And that's not what you really want to hear from one of your friends. Especially Kevin and Jenny, who obviously are the parents, and it just, and very many times throughout the series, you want to just say, "Oh, shut up, Andre, please." Like, it's funny. I mean, don't get me wrong. From a viewer aspect, it was really funny, but from being in that scene, it's like, "Oh, Andre, here we go again, another Andre moment." So that was a little funny. Next part is actually my favorite part of the episode, where Takeo has a EBDB, I guess you can say EBDB Prime kiosk, and where Kevin comes in and he's talking about how he can't get into his computer. No, that was later, but he's talking and he's saying that he wants to cancel his EBDB Prime membership, and Taco's like, "Oh, you need to get your password, but you need to retrieve your password." And of course, that whole banter, if anything, go back and watch it. I've watched it a few times already. I thought it was hilarious. I love that MacArthur brother aspect of it, especially Taco, and just the way he just is. He takes everything so seriously in his world, and that's probably the best part about that character, obviously Taco. So that whole banter I thought was funny. What I thought was equally funny was Ruxin amongst his house, the Casa de Ruxin, and the new security cameras, which Sophia keeps consistently watching. He found a blind spot, and he found a spot. It was like right behind the couch in front of like the sliding doors, where he found a spot where he can just kind of do all the things that he can do without the judgment of his wife. So he can bring, you know, ding dongs and whipped cream, which we'll get into a second. Because going back to Kevin, he's trying to log back into his computer, but he doesn't remember, or no, Taco changed the password, you know, because of the whole EBDB thing. And it's funny, and I probably can relate to this in terms of if I have something blocked on my, especially at home, I don't know, I'm not married, but it's blocked for a reason. So there are certain things that maybe, and nothing like shady, but in the competitive environment of fantasy football, all gloves are off. So if it means that my wife can't know my password to see what kind of things I'm planning for my team, then you know what? All's fair in love in fantasy football, because that's what it is. Nobody remembers a loser. Everybody remembers who won that season. So I completely get where Kevin's coming from as far as not wanting to share his password. And obviously Jenny being upset. And of course, he's his wife. But hey, like I said, it is what it is. Fantasy football, maybe once that season's over, maybe we can, you know, share the password. But for now, no. Things get leaked, et cetera, et cetera. So back to the blind spot. Ruxin has, you know, ding dongs and whipped cream, and which I think is an amazing combo. And I think I saw some Kettle One vodka there too. But again, he's definitely enjoying being in the blind spot. And again, throwback to season 1, I think it was like episode 2 with the bounce test, which something that it was early on, and they never really referenced it throughout the later episodes. But going back to season 1, I immediately thought to that episode about trying to hide the whole bounce test thing. It's kind of like a alternative for porn. It's not porn, but it's not exactly, suitable for work either, because it's literally a bounce test where it's a commercial for a bra. You get the story. And then he begins to, definitely, Ruxin, let's just say little Ruxin. He definitely uses the whipped cream, which is, that's weird, but again, funny. So then you had Jenny trying to find out the password for Kevin's computer, and he goes to Taco. Taco has obviously all the passwords there. And by the way, I think that this episode was very not suitable for, some of the language was not suitable for, so I apologize in advance for maybe someone using some of these words that were used in the episode, but in terms of the episode, it makes sense. So I'm using it not out of choice, I'm using it because of the episode. But Jenny finds out Kevin's password because Taco has everything logged in. And it turns out that that Kevin's password was Dick Chicken. And obviously, we were wondering, what the hell was that? And Taco makes a reference like, well, Pete and Kevin used to play that all the time when they were younger. Kind of like, okay, that's weird. I kind of already knew what it was, just based on what he said. But I think Jenny interpreted it as they played individually. We'll get into that in a second. So obviously now they're watching the Thursday night game, which was officially the beginning of the football season, which was Steelers versus Pats. And Jenny kind of making references about having Julian Edelman. If anybody knows football, maybe you're a fan of the show, but maybe if you're not, Julian Edelman, he's a slot receiver. And they just kind of make a lot of comments as in, for fantasy football, you may not want to get the slot receiver, which I personally disagree with. I love slot receivers. It's like they're always like the go-to, and you can never know when they're going to just do big and do well. So I completely understand why Edelman is her number one choice. But they're all arguing on where to have or where to watch week 1 that following Sunday. Andre wants to have it as his place. Kevin and Jenny want to have it at home because they don't want to find a babysitter. They don't want to have to Uber it, drive home, et cetera, et cetera. So Pete kind of becomes the ref. And in finding that and becoming the ref, he meets a girl named Libby, who me and Christina mentioned 2 episodes ago, that was played by Ariel Cabell. I think her name is Ariel Cabell. So that was her first appearance. Don't know if that was just a reoccurring, or if that's going to be a reoccurring role. Especially, I don't think it will be based on what they describe Pete as, and that's the draft king of relationships. But so he kind of goes off, but Jenny finds out that Pete and Kevin played Dick Chicken together. And she was a little disgusted. That was kind of funny when they were asking if either one of them was erect, but then Pete said no, and then Kevin said yes. And obviously that, was a little weird. So fast forward to week 1, and Pete is watching it at Kevin's house, and Ruxin is watching week 1 from his blind spot because he wants to, I guess you can say, tinker with his lineup before he can go to the MacArthur's. But obviously he's staying there because, you can't get rid of his blind spot, or he doesn't want to leave the blind spot. But apparently when they were watching at the MacArthur's, the direct TV feed went out. And it turns out that Taco canceled the direct TV feed because the EBDB should be their number 1 priority as far as content goes. And when they did that, Taco kind of played a DVD, and it was a video literally about Taco making tacos. And there was one specific part of this video where I was like, wow, are we really going to find out something? Because Taco starts talking, and he's saying, by the way, you'd be thinking that I'm making tacos because that's my name, but it turns out that's not my name. Taco is actually not my real name. My real name is, cut to the next scene, which I was like, come on, man. I've been waiting for Taco to reveal his real name. I'm hoping that they do at some point. I know that other shows have had that with, Entourage, obviously Turtle. He kind of mentioned his real name, maybe like season 6 or something. I know Mrs. Ari Gold mentioned her real name. It kind of reminds me of that one episode of The Simpsons as well, where they always talk about where Springfield is, and there's always that one clip or one picture of like somebody pointing to the map and then someone else blocking where the Springfield actually, what state actually Springfield is in, which people said like Missouri, but I don't know. That's the great thing about it, is like you may never know. And that might be something that we don't find out at all in the series. That just maybe like what's in the briefcase, kind of Pulp Fiction-y, you know? I don't know. I personally, if I had a choice, I'd keep him Taco. I think it's one of those great things. Whether we don't know what his real name is, very It's Pat-ish kind of thing. If anybody's ever watched that horrible movie. So now that the TV's out, they all go to Ruxin's, and Ruxin is, you know, has the no people over to his house. So obviously Ruxin had them stand in the blind spot, which obviously Sophia can't see that the family or the friends are there. So she keeps checking, and she's with her family, and obviously Sophia's family doesn't approve. She just says that you know, he's not one of us, because obviously she's Latin, he's Jewish. You know, I guess that was probably for a weird wedding. Then eventually Andre comes over, Ruxin, very like, dude, respect the blind spot. And then amongst the conversation in that blind spot, Kevin and Pete start arguing over who won in, you know, Dick Chicken. And they keep saying who won, and then, you know what? Fine, let's settle it right now. And in one of the, I guess you can say, moments that I didn't think I'd ever have to watch. Obviously, they didn't show anything, but obviously they start playing Gay Chicken, and they're very descriptive about it. All in the meantime, you can see, obviously you can't play Gay Chicken in that blind spot, so they start Dick Chicken. And so they kind of get in the living room. Sophia freaks out, and the family freaks out that they're seeing, you know, guys' you know, penises, and I mean, I thought it was hilarious, but horrible imagery, horrible visual, as far as like Ruxin kind of going like, oh, there's helmet contact. And I thought probably maybe even the line of the night, where Ruxin has always mentioned, being a germaphobe that he is, how everything is forever unclean. Jenny busting out the Kevin MacArthur's forever unclean, and that's how the episode ended. And I was like, okay, that didn't really maybe need that last part, but it definitely made into a funny, very, very funny episode of The League. Season 7, episode 3, The Blind Spot. But in the meantime, let's get into some predictions for next week's episode of The League.
And now, your AFTERBUZZ TV predictions.
By the way, I don't know if anybody's noticed, but this is a new setup. We are in a new building. We just moved. This is the first episode of The League in the new building, in the new studio. So I'm excited to be here. I think they call this the Ninja Turtles room because I don't know. I mean, I kind of get it. I think maybe it needs to be more green, but or maybe some pizza. But I think that next week we're going to see like none of these stories kind of continuing. I think that Sophia isn't going to be there, but I think that storyline kind of maybe postponed. I don't think she's going to be back maybe like for another few episodes. I think this episode was Megan-less, so I think we're going to see Megan back in the fold next week. I think she's going to be a staple. I'm kind of curious if Ariel Cabell is going to be back on. I think the impression that I got was she was going to do a couple episodes here and there. So that kind of is weird, or whether that's going to happen or not. But yeah, we're going to find out who won week 1. Obviously, we're going to see a lot of smack talking between all the characters. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Usually I cut to the other people to plug their Twitter accounts, but it's just me. But in the meantime, you can follow me you can follow me while I do my road to 400 Twitter followers revolution at G Hermoza. That's GHERMOZA. If you're watching on YouTube, the Twitter handle should be right there. If you're listening to us on iTunes, you can follow me at G Hermoza, at G Hermoza on Twitter and on Instagram, as the road to the 400 followers continues. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. If you're watching us live, thank you so much. You guys are awesome. Even if you're not watching live, you guys are all awesome. Feel free to watch me next week. I'll be covering The League. I'll be covering UFC. I'll be covering Total Divas. Just watch all the other shows on AfterBuzz TV. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching The League After Show on AfterBuzz TV.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later. The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.